Why, hello there, my second grade fabulous artists. Today, we are going to learn about two elements of art. Remember, elements of art are things we use to make our art beautiful. Space and value. These are two we haven't talked about yet. Let's start off by exploring space. This painting is called Christina's World by Andrew Wyeth. Take a moment to look at it. Christina is lying down in a field, and we know that she is the closest thing in this picture to us. How do we know that? We can see lots of details. We can see the wisps of her hair, some wrinkles in her dress, and even blades of grass around her. This space right before our eyes is called the foreground. Say foreground. Objects in the foreground look large because they are closest to us. The next area of space is called the middle ground because it's not the farthest part of the painting, but it's not the closest. It's in the middle. Can you see the blades of grass as clearly as you could in the foreground? No, they're a little further away. If Christina was lying down in the middle ground, she would look smaller and we wouldn't be able to see as many details on her. The last area of space is called the background. This is a word you've probably heard of. The background is the space that is the farthest away. We can't see many details at all because it's so far away from us. But wait, I just noticed something kind of silly. Why is Christina bigger than her house? Is she a giant? Let's think. Imagine you're standing outside looking up at the sky. You hear an airplane flying by. How does it look? Big or small? Chances are it looks very tiny because it is very high up in the sky. Is it actually a teeny tiny toy airplane? No. It just looks that way because there's so much space between it and you. Now it's time to create our own artwork that shows space. We're going to make landscapes, starting with just a pencil and paper. Start by drawing the foreground with a line for the ground and then draw the outline of a big tree. This tree is closest to us, so it will be the biggest tree we draw. As I move my way up the paper, I'm going to draw more lines for the ground and hills. I'm going to draw another tree, this time in the middle ground, so it will be smaller than the first. I'll add some mountains in the background, and on the top will be the tiniest trees of all. They're so far away that they look just like little wiggly shapes. You do not have to make your space landscape exactly like mine, but in order to practice drawing space, you may do that if it's easier for you. Otherwise, you can choose another object to draw, like houses or other buildings. The goal is to draw the objects large in the foreground, smaller in the middle ground, and the tiniest in the background in order to show space. Now let's talk about value. Value is how light or dark a color is. This is called a value scale. It shows how white becomes darker to become black. Colors in the rainbow can have value too. Take a look at this beautiful painting. Where do you see value? The light values that the artist used on the faces of the men and the darker values around them make it look like they are in a dark room with only some candles for light. Does this artwork look like one you've seen before? This is another Starry Night painting by Vincent van Gogh. There is value in the beautiful blue night sky. Where do you see light blue values? By the stars and above the glowing city lights. Van Gogh painted with lighter values of blue to show that the starlight and lights from the city are lighting up the sky. Back to our space landscape. We are going to add value. An easy way to start experimenting with value is to use crayons. Choose one colored crayon. On the very bottom of our landscape, which we know is the foreground, we are going to color the darkest. It may help to outline that foreground layer, including your tree. That way, you know exactly what to fill in with this darkest value. Next, move on to the layer above the bottom. This value will be a little lighter, so you won't need to press quite as hard with your crayon. You will continue to color in lighter values in the middle ground until you reach the background. The very top background space will be left white. If you have a moon or some other small detail in the background, you might want to color it a dark value to make it pop. Now it's time to double check our values. You may need to color over them a little bit more so that they show well. Remember, the foreground is the darkest value, the middle ground is lighter, and the background is the lightest value. And there we have it! You have just learned about two new elements of art, space and value, and you've made your own beautiful landscape. Go tell a friend what you've learned, you great artist you!